What's going on, boys and girls? Welcome back to the Steel Curtain Call, a show here on YouTube and or Facebook, depending on where you're viewing us from, dedicated completely to the Pittsburgh Steelers. I am your host. My name is Patrick. Thank you for tuning in tonight, guys. And remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel if that is where you're watching from. And make sure to like our Facebook page if you're watching on Facebook. Let's talk about Week 12. So the surprising thing about Week 12 wasn't that we won the football game. I think we all expected to get out of Week 12 with a victory. The surprising part was how we won the football game. If you would have told me coming into this game that we would have won this game via a Chris Boswell game-winning field goal as time expired, I would have laughed at you. Talked about it in the preview show, and I feel like everybody else was talking about it. The Packers are an injury-ridden team right now across their offense and their defense. They don't have Aaron Rodgers, their star quarterback. They've got this Brett Hundley guy who, coming into this game, had thrown 2 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. In Heinz Field, primetime, we're going to wipe the floor with them. Well, that's not what happened at all. The Packers proved to be a lot more challenging than we all thought. And I got to say, I'm really glad Aaron Rodgers didn't play in this game, because if his backup quarterback, Brett Hundley, played like that, I can only imagine what he would have done to our secondary. So yes, very, very good thing he did not play. But one thing about this team, man, is the narrative continues. It's not going to be the prettiest thing in the world, but we will beat you. We will find a way to win. And I want to be clear, guys, I'm not a fan of these sloppy performances. I'd like the Steelers to become a dominant football team. I'd like them to start stepping on these bad teams' throats like they should, but one thing about this group that you have to give them credit for here in 2017 is that they are a resilient bunch. In the face of adversity, in the face of digging holes and shooting themselves in the foot, they do not let that get to them. They find ways to crawl back out and still win games. So yes, I do think these sloppy performances, if they don't clean them up, could come back to bite them at some point, but man, you got to give this group credit. They are incredibly resilient. Now keep that word in the back of your head, because resilient is a word we're going to be throwing around a lot tonight, because I think that describes the Steelers' performance in this game as a whole. We've got a lot of stuff to get to. We're going to start with the offensive side of the football tonight, and I can't think of a better word to describe how the offense played than resilient. Folks, only a resilient team can turn the football over 3 times and have multiple dropped catches on the night and still score 31 points and win the football game. You don't typically go -3 in the turnover margin and score 31 points. That just doesn't happen very often. It is a testament to not only how resilient this offense is, but it is a testament to just how talented this offense is. We have an offense that is so talented that we can turn the ball over 3 times and still outscore you. And if this game was anything, folks, it was a testament to just how talented the big 3 are. Big Ben, Le'Veon Bell, and Antonio Brown. Guys, when these 3 guys are clicking, when they're all on the same page, and if they all have dominant games, this team is near impossible to beat. Like I said, look no further than 3 turnovers and still scoring 31 points. It was all about these 3 in this game. But the fact is the offense is still not living up to its full potential, though. Stop! And that is where we're going to start, is with the bad. Let's talk about drop passes. Now, I felt bad for Ben Roethlisberger in this game because his stat sheet would have looked a whole lot better if receivers actually caught passes. Eli Rogers, Martavis Bryant, Jesse James, Le'Veon Bell, there were drops all night long. And you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. Going back and watching this game on Game Pass a second and third time, I counted at least 8 or 9 drop passes on the night. What I do know for certain is that 5 of them came in the first quarter by itself. We just talked about Eli Rogers. Guys, there is a reason why Eli Rogers does not see a lot of field these days. There's a big reason why he is not really part of the offensive game plan anymore. It isn't just that Juju Smith-Schuster is emerging and coming along. It's that Eli Rogers is proving to be a very inconsistent pass catcher. He doesn't have a big catch radius to begin with, so he's not a great target to throw to, but he just can't make those tough, physical, in-traffic catches. He just cannot do that. Watching Eli Rogers in this game was just an ugly thing, and it just, we missed Juju Smith-Schuster. His absence was severely felt. Martavis Bryant also had a couple of drops. Now, I'm not going to grill Bryant too much because he did have that nice 17-yard touchdown catch. I'm glad he did catch it because it was a perfectly thrown pass by Ben Roethlisberger. I would have jumped out my window if he did drop it, but he made the play, so I'll give him credit. But guys, Martavis Bryant, I'm just going to go ahead and say this, and I know I'm going to rub some of you the wrong way, but he is not the same Martavis Bryant of 2 years ago. He's just not. And please do not blame Todd Haley for not including him in the offense. Don't blame Ben Roethlisberger for not throwing him the football. He is getting plenty of opportunities. This guy is just not the same playmaker that he was 2 years ago. It's just the facts. You can give me the physical metrics all day long. Oh, but he's got 4.2 speed and he's 6'5". Yes, I'm aware that he is a physical monster. I'm aware that he's wildly athletic, but that does not mean that he's better than Juju Smith-Schuster right now, because he's not. Then there was Jesse James. Jesse James is a very, very frustrating guy because he's the type of guy that'll make a really nice catch and then have some really nice moves and get some solid yards after the catch, and you're thinking, okay, Jesse is a good tight end. I was wrong. But then he'll drop the easiest catch in the free world, and we're right back to square one with him. So I'm still not 100% sure where I come down on Jesse James. There were some very frustrating penalties early on into the game, and there were 3 turnovers, as we talked about. 2 of these turnovers came in the form of Ben Roethlisberger interceptions. I'm only going to grill Ben for one of the interceptions. I don't think the second one was his fault. The second one was just one of those unlucky, unfortunate plays. The ball gets tipped at the line of scrimmage by Ahmad Brooks, and Blake Martinez is there at the right place at the right time to make the interception. I wish the NFL had a way to take interceptions like that off of quarterback stat sheets, because I don't think it should count against them. Probably won't ever happen, but it is what it is. But I'm not going to grill Ben for that interception. The first one, on the other hand, was totally Ben's fault. Not only is Eli Rogers not really open on this play, he also kind of throws the ball a little bit behind him, and Demarius Randall is there to make a very easy interception. Very poor decision by Ben there. Le'Veon Bell had another critical fumble. I'm not really ready to wave the red flag just yet on Le'Veon Bell, because when you look at his ratio of carries to fumbles, it's pretty good. He's never really had a severe fumbling problem. But going back to last season and sort of this season as well, he does have a little bit of a fumbling issue. And the thing that's frustrating is that he appears to be fumbling at the worst possible times in enemy territory. He did it back in the Lions game, and he also did it in this game. So the 3 turnovers were very, very frustrating, but give the defense a lot of credit. We'll talk about the defense here in a little bit, but give them a ton of credit because the Packers only scored a touchdown on 1 of these turnovers. So the Steelers were very, very fortunate. But enough of that negativity, because like I said, even though the Steelers committed a lot of these turnovers, committed a lot of these mistakes, they still found a way to score 31 points, and it started with the big 3. Let's talk about Le'Veon Bell first and foremost. Guys, there's a reason why Le'Veon Bell's getting paid $12 million. There's a reason why guys like Devontae Freeman and Shady McCoy, who are great running backs, not taking anything away from them, but there's a reason why they're making $8 million and Bell is making $12 million. And, let's not pretend that we've never seen Bell do this before, but it still never ceases to amaze me. You were looking at one of the most complete players in pro football, maybe the most complete player. He has 20 carries for 95 yards, and he has 12 catches for 88 yards receiving to go along with it. Just a monster day. The other thing about those 12 catches for 88 yards that become even more amazing when you think about them is that the majority of his catches were checkdowns. So how did he get 88 yards off of checkdowns? Well, only one conclusion: yards after the catch. Bell was also as slippery and as elusive as I have ever seen him in this game. He just broke ankles all night long. We know that Bell's a slippery guy. We know that he's very elusive. We know that he can make guys miss in the open field easy. But man, he was incredible in this game. Also, congratulations, Le'Veon Bell. He went over 5,000 rushing yards in his career. That is a massive milestone for him, so congratulations, sir. Now let's talk about Big Ben Roethlisberger. Guys, Big Ben is back. This is the second week in a row where he has thrown 4 touchdowns. He threw for 350 yards also in this game. Like I said, if the receivers actually caught passes, he probably would have had more. But it is so good to see Ben bounce back after really the rough season he's had so far. And one thing that's kind of interesting about Ben Roethlisberger and this offense as a whole is that, the Steelers are finally having those big breakout performances. They're finally scoring those 30 points per game that we all know that they can do. But what's different? Ben Roethlisberger's throwing the football more. Now, you can still argue that Le'Veon Bell is still the focal point of the offense because not only does he rush for 95 yards, he does catch 12 passes for 88 yards. So you could still technically argue that Bell is still the focal point of the offense. But what I'm saying is all of a sudden the Steelers are playing better offensively, and when we look at what's changing, Ben is throwing more. And another reason things are different is Ben is not only throwing more, he is actually making throws. In our best efforts to try to figure out what's been wrong with the offense this season, I think the biggest thing has been Ben Roethlisberger just has not been playing well. Well, now with the Titans game, now with this game, you're just seeing Ben play a whole lot better. It's as simple as that. And Ben just had some dime throws in this game. The 33-yard touchdown to Antonio Brown in the fourth quarter. That play was a lot of people might watch that play and think, oh, that wasn't that, really big of a deal. But when you watch what Ben did there, Antonio Brown has a very narrow window to catch the football. He's got a cornerback right behind him, and he's got a safety right over the top. So Ben doesn't have the biggest window to throw to AB there. But he puts the ball perfectly right in between those defenders. AB does the rest. That was a sensational throw. The 17-yard touchdown to Martavis Bryant, that was a perfect on-the-money throw as well. And the miracle 23-yard toe-dragging catch by Antonio Brown. The biggest narrative on that play, obviously, was Antonio Brown. But guys, give Ben Roethlisberger credit for the throw he made. If Ben would have put that ball even a little more to the sideline, probably no way Antonio Brown makes that catch. He put that ball exactly where it needed to be for Antonio Brown to make a sensational play. So big ups to Big Ben Roethlisberger. I love the way he's playing. I love the way he's kind of quieting those haters, the people saying that he doesn't have it anymore. Also, he has 132 regular season wins now as a starting NFL quarterback. That is 7th most in NFL history. Now let's talk about Antonio Brown. Wow. I'm really running out of adjectives. I don't think there are enough adjectives in the English language to talk about what he's doing. He had 10 catches for 169 yards in this game and 2 more touchdowns, including the miracle 23-yard toe drag catch. Guys, this catch was absolutely incredible because about 90 different things have to happen in the course of 1 second for this catch to be possible, and Antonio Brown does all of them. Obviously, I'm exaggerating a little bit with the 90 number, but a lot of things do have to happen. First off, you have to catch the football, duh. The other thing you have to do is he kind of has to make a catch over his shoulder, so it's not the easiest catch in the free world. And in an instant of time, he has to make the catch while simultaneously keeping his feet in bounds. And guys, we're not talking about a game of inches. We're talking about a game of centimeters. That is literally how close he was to that sideline. But in the course of 1 second, he is able to make that catch and keep his feet in bounds and drag his toes. There's a reason why we call him Tony Toe Tap. And guys, I tweeted this out yesterday. If you follow my personal Twitter account, P_Garrison, you probably saw it. But I wasn't alive in the 1980s and the 1990s. Obviously, we all have access to YouTube, so we can all go back and watch those all-time great players like Joe Montana, like Jim Brown, like Jerry Rice and Bradshaw and Joe Green and Franco Harris. We can all go back and watch these guys. But, you talk to these older people and who lived through that time, and you hear them say things like, I actually saw them play. I saw them live. That's kind of how I feel watching Antonio Brown. I am grateful to be alive in the era that he is playing football. To call Antonio Brown a great receiver is an insult. It is a massive understatement. He is so much better than a great receiver. We are looking at an all-time great in Antonio Brown. He's just one of those special players. And it's just really cool because he's one of those players who, when we're 40 or 50 years old, in the future, and we're talking to the younger generation, and I don't know where football is going to be in, 40 or 50 years, but he's going to be one of those guys who will get to be, talking to little kids, and we'll get to say, hey, we saw Antonio Brown play. They'll be watching clips on their phones or whatever they have at that time. And they'll be saying, wow, Antonio Brown was so good. But we'll get to be those group of people that say, yeah, we watched him. Now, another thing I want to talk about very quickly was that final drive the Steelers had where they got the game-winning Chris Boswell field goal. Guys, there's so many things you have to think about. They took over at their own 30-yard line with 17 seconds left. And I want to give a ton of credit to Mike Tomlin because I think his decision to not call a timeout after the TJ Watt sack was critical in the Steelers being able to go down the field. After TJ Watt's big sack on Brett Hundley, I think we were all expecting Mike Tomlin to call that first timeout. They had 3 timeouts at the time, but he did not. Instead, he waited until the Steelers stopped the Packers on 3rd down, then he called the first timeout. Now, at that point, there's 27 seconds left. The punt takes about 10 seconds, so the Steelers get the ball back with 17 seconds at their own 30-yard line. So at first, I think we were all a little angry at Tomlin, but then we realized, hey, yes, we have only 17 seconds left, but we do have 2 timeouts. We've got the opportunity to take some shots here. So I thought that was instrumental in that drive, having those 2 timeouts. Big kudos to Mike Tomlin there. And then, guys, you have to remember that even though the 23-yard toe drag catch by AB was incredible, that still did not put Boswell in field goal range. It was the next play that put Chris Boswell in field goal range. The 14-yard pass from Ben Roethlisberger to, guess who? Antonio Brown. So that drive was just absolutely incredible. Wow, what a way to end that game. Other bright things about this offense performance, guys, we were 3 of 3 in the red zone. What? The Steelers have been one of the worst teams in the NFL when it comes to red zone efficiency this season. Well, we were 3 of 3 in this game, so that is very exciting. Also want to give a ton of credit to the offensive line. They only allowed 1 sack on the night. And by the way, that 1 sack was not the offensive line's fault. Ben Roethlisberger actually held the football for a solid 6 seconds. If a quarterback holds the ball for 6 seconds and still doesn't get rid of it, he's probably going to get sacked. So that was not even on the O-line. So you could argue that the O-line did not allow any sacks in this game. So like I said, guys, resilient offense performance, committed 3 turnovers, multiple drop passes, but still found a way to win the football game. And just be very, very thankful that you got Ben Roethlisberger, Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell all on the same football team. That just doesn't happen very often. Now let's move on to the defensive side of the football. We talked about the word resilient. We talked about how that was the biggest word to describe the offense performance. performance, I think you can use that same word for the defense. Now, don't get me wrong, the defense gave up a lot of big plays in this game, and I also think you could argue the defense had one of its worst performances of the entire season. Was it as bad as the Jacksonville Jaguars and Chicago Bears games? Probably wouldn't go that far, but it was a very disappointing performance nonetheless. But even with these big plays we gave up, we still had some massive, massive critical stops in this game that did not allow the Packers to take control. We'll get to those here in just a little bit, but let's start with the big plays. The Steelers allowed big plays of 39, 54, and 55 in this game, and they all went for touchdowns. We also allowed Brett Hundley to throw 3 touchdown passes in this game and not throw a single pick. This isn't Brady, this isn't Rodgers, this isn't Breeze, this is Brett Hundley, guys. We'll talk about the first big play given up. It was the 39-yard touchdown to Randall Cobb. And once again, we've been talking about this season as well. This play happened because of Artie Burns. If you watch this play, what happens is Randall Cobb lines up in the slot. Jordy Nelson is lined up on the outside. Jordy Nelson runs a slant, and Randall Cobb is going to run to the flat and then take it up the sideline. And Artie Burns on this play does, once again, what he has done so many times this season. He completely alienates the outside, the boundary, and bites down to the inside and just leaves the outside wide open. I want to be very clear. I'm not prepared to have the Artie Burns is trash discussion yet. I'm not there yet. Am I flirting with it? Sort of. It's very disappointing where Artie Burns is in his second year. I thought he would be so much farther along in his development, and it turns out he is not. The thing about Artie Burns this season, man, is he's just making harebrained mistakes. I mean, cornerbacks are going to get beat sometimes. That's just the nature of being a cornerback, but he's just making dumb mistakes. Right now, I think Artie Burns is kind of in his own head. I think he's maybe trying to do too much. But either way, he's just having an atrocious season. I don't know how else to say it. The next big play given up was the Jamal Williams 54-yard touchdown. This was a very simple play. It was just a simple check down, but I'm going to give the Packers a lot of credit. So many times, as I've talked about, so many times you get so bogged down in what your team didn't do that you don't focus on what the other team did do. This was just excellent blocking by the Packers on this play. Jamal Williams literally had about 5 guys in front of him. The Steelers never really stood a chance. A lot of people wanted to grill Ryan Shazier on this play for taking a bad angle and missing a tackle. It was going to be hard for Shazier to get a clean angle on that play anyway because of how many blockers they had, so I'm not going to grill Shazier too much. But either way, another big play given up. The Packers' opening drive in the third quarter, a 55-yard touchdown to guess who we talked about in the preview show, Davante Adams. And what happened on this play was not very complex, wasn't very technical, it's very simple. Cody Sensabaugh just got absolutely murdered. This is the second week in a row where Cody Sensabaugh has given up massive touchdowns. He gave up the 75-yard touchdown to Rashard Matthews last week, and he gives up a 55-yarder this week to Davante Adams. What happened on this play? It was just a very, very well-designed route, a great route ran by Davante Adams. It was a double move. It was a stop-and-go route. Those routes are very difficult to cover if you're a cornerback because as a cornerback, your instinct is to be very reactive. And he bites down on the first move. Adams blows right by him. Wide open touchdown. I want to be clear. I don't think it's time to bench Cody Sensabaugh. I don't think we should move William Gay to outside corner. I don't think we should put Cameron Sutton at outside corner right now. Guys, Cameron Sutton spent the majority of the year on IR. He also missed almost all of training camp. This guy has missed too much time to just throw out there with the Sharks. Also, guys, you can't ask Cody Sensabaugh to be Joe Hayden. He's not. But nevertheless, that is 2 big plays given up by Sensabaugh. If he continues to do this while Joe Hayden's gone, then yes, maybe we should make some adjustment. But right now, I think we should stick with him. And guys, we've been talking about it ever since the Detroit Lions game, and I got to give myself a partial pat on the back because I've been sounding the alarm on this for a while, and it is now a full-scale problem. Where there is smoke, there is fire. This secondary is now giving up big plays consistently week in and week out. And I don't think it's a scheme thing. I don't think it's a Keith Butler problem. I think it's just as simple as guys aren't executing. Nevertheless, this is something that's got to get cleaned up, and it's got to get cleaned up fast because we play the Patriots in 2 weeks, guys. But like I said, resilient is the key word. Even though the defense gave up these very big plays, they did have some massive critical stops in this game that kept the Green Bay Packers from taking total control. The first massive stop the defense had was stopping the Packers from taking a 2-possession lead after Ben Roethlisberger's second interception. We talked about it already. It was the Blake Martinez interception off of Ahmad Brooks' tipped pass at the line of scrimmage. Martinez gets the interception, and they take over at the Pittsburgh 45-yard line. So at this point, I'm thinking, here we go. They're either going to kick a Mason Crosby field goal or they'll score, and we have a 2-possession ball game. But the Steelers defense makes 2 big plays on this drive that keeps the Packers from putting any points on the board. First off, off, LT Walton sacks Brett Hundley all the way back at the 36-yard line for a loss of 6, and then 2 plays later, you could probably guess who got this sack, Cameron Hayward. That pushed the Packers all the way back to the Pittsburgh 40-yard line, and at that point, you're looking at a 57-yard field goal. Mason Crosby missed the field goal. By the way, just a testament to how hard it is to kick at Heinz Field. The longest field goal ever kicked at Heinz Field was 53 yards. So 2 huge sacks on that drive completely ruined the opportunity for the Packers to go up and get a 2-possession lead. The next huge defensive stop came after Bell's fumble. Now, as we already talked about, this fumble was really unfortunate because we were well into Green Bay territory. They recovered the fumble, and they take over. So how did the Steelers defense respond? How about a very quick 3 and out? Another massive response to a turnover, and then the next huge response the defense had was on the second to last drive of the game. This was perhaps their biggest stop. Now, I think I speak for every Steelers fan out there when I say that we were all feeling very uneasy once we gave the ball back to the Packers with a minute and 20 seconds to go, because the Packers' previous offensive drive, Brett Hundley had taken them down in 12 plays for 77 yards and scored a tying touchdown. The offense got the ball back, they weren't able to do anything, and we kicked the ball right back to Green Bay with a minute and 20 left. I think all of us were feeling very uneasy in that moment. But your defense stood up again. Another very quick 3 and out, and the Packers have to punt. And the big thing that set that punt up was the TJ Watt sack. TJ Watt sacks Brett Hundley for a loss of 6 all the way back to the Green Bay 12. That's ultimately what set it up. And let's go ahead and talk about this now. I know a lot of you are going to roll your eyes and say, oh, here we go. Here's the biased Pittsburgh Steelers fan. TJ Watt did hit him in the helmet. Yes. Was it a helmet to helmet? Clearly. Do I think that the officials made the right call to not throw the flag? Yes, I do, and here's why. You go back and watch this play. Brett Hundley turns his body at the last second and lowers his head just as TJ Watt is coming in. It's not like TJ Watt aimed for the head. Brett Hundley just moved his head at the wrong place at the wrong time. Yes, it was a helmet-to-helmet. Would I have been overly surprised and all that disappointed if a flag was thrown? Probably not. In fact, after the play happened, I think we all held our breath and we were just waiting for those yellow flags to fly out. But I got to give Ed Hockley and the officiating crew a lot of credit. I think they made the right decision by not throwing a flag. It won't surprise me if TJ Watt is fined here in the next couple of days, but I do think it was the right call to not call anything. By the way, to talk about that sack really quick, guys, TJ Watt was about 15 to 20 yards back from the line of scrimmage. He is in coverage. He comes all the way out of coverage and chases Brett Hundley down. It looked like Ryan Shazier chasing a quarterback on that play. Excellent speed he displayed. Big play there by TJ Watt. So like I said, guys, resilience. These massive stops the defense had kept the Packers ultimately from winning this game when you think about it. The Steelers' rush defense also played extremely well in this game. They held the Packers to just 80 yards rushing on the day. They only averaged 3.3 yards per carry. And one guy who I'm going to keep talking about him every week is Mike Hilton. This guy just continues to be an absolute force in the run game. It just amazes me at 5'8" what this guy continues to do. Man, I love this guy. Also thought the Steelers' pass rush was good in this game. I thought it could have been better. The pass rush didn't really pick up until the second half, but they did get to Brett Hundley 4 times on the day, which was solid. And 2 of these 4 sacks came from yours truly, Cameron Hayward. Folks, Cameron Hayward, if Cameron Hayward does not make the Pro Bowl this season, I think I'm going to boycott football. Just kidding. I'm not going to boycott football. But, folks, Cameron Hayward is having an all-pro season. The only other defensive lineman who maybe is playing better than Cameron Hayward right now maybe is Calais Campbell. Other than that, I don't know any other defensive lineman that is playing on his level. And it's not just getting after the quarterback. Obviously, he has 9.5 sacks on the season, but what he's doing in rush defense as well. I mean, he is absolutely unstoppable right now. And going back to, the way he's getting after the quarterback, the Steelers' defense is centered around their outside linebackers. They are the foundation of the pass rush. Right now, it's not TJ Watt. It's not Bud Dupree. They're not the ones leading the charge. It is Cameron Hayward with 9.5 sacks on the year. So that guy has just been an absolute force of nature. Like I said, if he does not make the Pro Bowl, I really don't even know. But like I said, these big critical stops ultimately kept the Packers from winning this game. So at the end of the day, big thumbs up to the defense. Also, we got to talk about the Wizard of Boz. I thought Chris Boswell did an excellent job of rebounding. He missed that extra point, which was extremely disappointing there at the beginning of the game on the Steelers' opening drive. But it was all good because he wins the game with a 53-yard game-winning field goal. And as we talked about previously in the show, that ties the record for longest field goal made at Heinz Field. Chris Boswell, once again, as he has so many times this season, saves the day. So anyway, guys, that's going to do it for my recap show. Wow, these Steelers, I tell you what. They're winning football games, and they're winning football games. That's going to do it for us here tonight. We will be back on Thursday night to preview the second matchup with the Cincinnati Bungholes, and that's one thing I really want to stress. We're all talking about this New England Patriots game, and that's the game we're all focused on. But guys, you got to remember, we do have to play the Bengals a second time. we've got to play them first before we play New England, so let's not get too ahead of ourselves. We'll be back on Thursday with that show. Remember to follow us on Twitter at scurtaincall33. Remember to like the Facebook page, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and guys, once again, thank you so much. We are now over 200 subscribers. That happened over the Thanksgiving break. I'm just very overwhelmed. Like I said, got a very small little outfit here. It's very simple. We just talk about the Steelers, and I didn't think when I started this thing that it was going to be like this. And it is all thanks to you guys, so I'm very, very appreciative. All right, guys, that's going to do it for us here today. We will see you back here on Thursday night. But until then, here we go, Steelers. Good night, guys.